Welcome. I'm Maddox Kilgore. We're at the law offices of Kilgore and Rodriguez, attorneys at law in Marietta. And today we're doing a criminal justice chat with Jason Marbutt. Welcome, Jason.
Hey guys, how are you today?
We're doing great. Jason is a candidate for Superior Court of Cobb County, and that election is on May the 19th, right?
Boy, I hope it's on May the 19th. We've heard some chatter about moving it, but right now that's when it's scheduled.
Right. And of course, Jason, you and I know each other. We were colleagues in the district attorney's office, and I think we've had cases actually against each other as well. So I've known you for many years, but a lot of the voters in Cobb County might not know you yet. So why don't you just introduce yourself to everyone?
Sure. As you said, my name is Jason Marbutt. I am a prosecutor right now. I'm a senior assistant district attorney. I'm the head of the Elder Abuse, White Collar, and Public Integrity Unit. I've been a prosecutor in Cobb for about 15 years. I was a teacher before I was a prosecutor. I taught elementary school. I taught 6th grade and 8th grade math and science, and I also taught high school for a year. But as you said, I'm a candidate for Cobb Superior Court Judge. I'm running for Judge Schuster's spot because he is retiring and it'll be an open seat.
Okay, well, again, welcome. Let's get started with some criminal justice questions. All right, so the first thing I'm going to ask you about is something that my old boss, Harris Hines, used to say, and that is that a Superior Court judge is the most powerful person in the state of Georgia. So, Jason, the question to you is, if you're elected Superior Court judge, how would you wield that sort of power?
Sure. I'm going to answer your question this way, I guess, with a bit of a story. I'm going to talk about, about 10 years ago, my wife and I, we were at a public pool down in St. Simon's Island. It's one of these pools where, there's a waiting area and then a deeper end. Lots of families around, lots of kids. There's multiple lifeguards. And the reason that there are multiple lifeguards is because you're kind of relying on those lifeguards if one of those kids gets in over their head. And sure enough, that's what happens. We're there and we hear a scream. And I look up and there's a kid and he is lying face down in the water. And as I look up, the parents' worst nightmare, right? You're thankful it's not your kid, but it's also this tense situation for everybody involved. I see two lifeguards. One is right next to the kid. He's on the side of the pool. He clearly sees the kid in distress right there next to him. And then the other lifeguard I see is all the way across the pool. And this is kind of why I tell the story. It's really about sort of what they did and how they responded, because that first lifeguard, the one who was in the best position, he froze. He was just stuck in the moment and didn't take any action. The second lifeguard, he was awesome. I mean, he dove into the pool, he swam across, he drug the kid up onto the pavement, he starts doing CPR. I'm pretty certain that the kid ended up being okay. He was crying and talking to his mom. He was resuscitated as the paramedics came and they took him away. But that story has always stuck with me, especially as I've gotten older and I think back to it, because I think that it illustrates something that I've come to have a better understanding of the older I've gotten. And that's that those that we entrust with power are not always equipped or suited to make the tough decisions that we ask them to make. I think some people are the first lifeguard. And when trouble strikes or danger hits or a tough decision needs to be made, they freeze. And I'm not judging that guy, and I'm not judging people who necessarily have those reactions, because I think that nobody intends to be that person, right? He didn't take the job as a lifeguard thinking, I'm going to freeze in that moment when I've got to do what I've got to do. But I don't know that people fully realize sort of how to respond until those situations hit. And I think there are other folks who are the second lifeguard. We see that day in and day out, folks who have to make tough decisions, who can rise to the occasion and show the fortitude. We see that with military. We see that with law enforcement. We can see that with our first responders, firemen. We're seeing that right now with our doctors and our nurses who are kind of on the front lines fighting this virus, and they're responding to what's an unfathomable situation and what's thrust upon them. I have been a prosecutor for the past 15 years, and I've had to figure out whether I'm the first lifeguard or the second. I've been in the position of having to make tough decisions. I don't know that I agree with your former boss's assessment that a Superior Court judge is your air quotations, the most powerful person in the state of Georgia, because I think that can change from moment to moment. Certainly all those years ago, the two most powerful people in that moment, in that pool, were those two lifeguards. To those families, they were the most powerful person. But I do understand the point of your question, that we do ask a lot of our Superior Court judges. They are powerful people. We do ask them to make tough decisions on a daily basis. And so my answer to you is that I will handle that job with humility, but I will follow the law. And I believe that I have the fortitude to make the tough decisions that are required of me, because I've had practice doing that for the past 15 years.
Jason, that's a great story. I've not heard you tell that before, but that's a great story. So the next question I want to ask you about deals with the crisis we're dealing with right now, the health crisis, COVID-19. And the question is, have we learned anything? Or rather, have you learned anything that would help you be a better judge in Cobb Superior Court?
I think the easiest answer, but I think it's also the best answer, really is what we're doing right now is one of the best lessons that we can take, and that's video conferencing. We don't do that in the criminal justice system very much. I have a friend who's a federal judge. They do it more in the federal system. They certainly do it more in the civil context. My wife, who's an attorney, she does hearings all the time that are video conference. My friend, who's an administrative law judge, they receive exhibits via video conference. They have witnesses take depositions, do all sorts of testimony. But in the context of criminal justice, I've had some witnesses who've had, maybe during trial, we've had Skype hearings where both the defense and the prosecution have agreed. I was part of Judge Kell and the Superior Court judges were starting an initiative late last year to try and open up video conferencing for some inmates. I was part of the first hearing where we had a Department of Corrections inmate who was down at a prison down in South Georgia, and we did a video conferencing to correct a sentence. It was a merger issue, so a change that needed to happen, but from a practical standpoint wasn't going to change the overall sentence, what their parolability, eligibility, or any of that sort of date was. So we were able to save thousands of dollars just by video conferencing in and then letting them digitally sign the new sentence sheet, so we could affect what the Court of Appeals had said is, fix this merger issue without having to drag the inmate up, have them ride a bus for several hours, wait at the jail, come over to the courthouse, wait in the bowels of the courthouse, and come up for a 5-minute hearing where all the parties agree as to what's going to happen. And so it takes, I think, sometimes great events like this, or great is probably not the best word, but I think significant events to force change. And I think it's causing our judges and causing me to look at better ways of using this technology. And I hope that we continue to see ways to increase our efficiency as a court system. I think we can find other ways to do this on a more regular basis when things hopefully start to get back to normal, so that we can improve the efficiency of the court system by being able to do this.
Well, I know the lawyers certainly are going to appreciate that if we can make that happen as well. But listen, Jason, I sure do appreciate you being with us. I want to give you the last word. And just if there's anything you want to just say directly to the voters of Cobb County before this election on May the 19th, you have the last word.
I appreciate it, Maddox. I guess the only thing I would say is that we are in unprecedented times. That word unprecedented gets used a lot these last few weeks. I don't know what the next few weeks are going to happen. It's something that I've been campaigning on for a while, or I've been campaigning for a while. And it takes moments like this, I think, to offer us all perspective. And I realize that my campaign is not the most important thing going on in everybody else's lives. It's obviously still very important to me. I think it is important that we make good choices as to who we put in the office. And I hope that I will have the support and people's vote. But more than anything, I just want people to stay healthy and safe and to spend time with their families and keep everything in perspective as we continue out through these next few weeks and months.
Well, I appreciate that. And thank you again so much for joining us. We're at a safe distance from one another. And good luck on May the 19th. Jason Marbutt, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.